Okay, great. Thank you, Brandy. That was a great introduction from Brandy and some great questions, folks. So let's move on to the next section, which is our data submission. And this is a short section as the actual functionality still hasn't been implemented in the CalPADS production side, but we have some mock-ups and whatnot that we're gonna go over. So let's review the CalPADS submission methods and functionality now. And the first slide that we have here is related to record relationships. So the WBLR file may be submitted independently of other Interfere 1 file types. However, an enrollment record for the School of Attendance during the academic year reported must exist for the student. So there's also a potential for a record relationship with the course section completion file, as the state course codes can be mapped to some WBLR records, as we have discussed a little bit earlier. But at this time, there are no specific validations that create a relationship between the two files. So at a minimum, you should have the student enrollment updated first in CalPADS and then upload the work-based learning file. Okay. So exactly where does this data come from? This information comes from the new work-based learning data that was announced in Flash 184 and other communications, as well as the data that was formally submitted in the student enrollment or SCNR file and the special ed or SPED files. So LEAs are required to submit work-based learning completion information in any grades 9 through 12, as Brandy mentioned earlier. To give you a little bit more background of the 12 work-based learning types, 2 were collected in the special ed or SPED file previously, and 3 were collected as indicators on the student enrollment or SCNR file. So the state and federal program indicators from the student enrollment file has now been broken into 5 separate work-based learning codes. Basically, there are 3 new work-based learning types, 7 work-based learning types from the student enrollment, and 2 work-based learning types from the special ed file that combined makes the 12 types in the WBLR file type. Okay, so how is this data submitted to CalPADS? So this is more for the CalPADS administrators. They're more familiar with the CalPADS user interface and whatnot. So the records can be submitted via batch file or in online maintenance. The WBLR file format uses the replacement processing method by academic year and school of attendance and is used for batch processing. So what this really means is that the submitted files replace existing records in CalPADS when the School of Attendance, Academic Year ID, SSID, and work-based learning type codes match between the existing records in CalPADS and the new data that is submitted in a file. So WBLR records can also be maintained using the CalPADS online maintenance user interface, and they are processed basically the same way using the same rules and validations that is applied to the batch files. Okay, now on this next slide, we have some mockups. So again, this has not been implemented in the CalPADS production side. These are just mockups, and keep in mind that these can change, and changes should be expected when the file is actually implemented in CalPADS sometime next spring. Okay. On the left side of the screen, if you look, we have the view submission screen. This is after you have submitted your file to CalPADS. So most likely there will be a work-based learning WBLR file type, and they're listed alphabetically. So it's most likely at the bottom of that list, both on the file upload page as well as the view submissions page that you see here, a mockup of. And then on the student side, this is online maintenance. Under the student detail page where the student profile is, most likely there will be another container, and it will be all the way at the bottom, because as they add new containers for student profile, it's usually at the bottom. So you will see a work-based learning container in the bottom of the student profile as well. So if you were to go in online maintenance and you go to that WBLR container under student profile and either opened an existing record or added a new record, you will see a modal window with a form similar to what you see on this screen. Again, this is a mock-up. This is not the finalized version of what you will see in production, but it should be close enough. And basically, the WBLR file will feature student demographic and enrollment data for identification, verification purposes on the top somewhere here. But there are 7 fields of data specific to work-based learning that will be in the body of this form. And we have mapped those different data elements with their number on this form. And those 7 data elements are listed on the left side, right? So this is the core of the WBLR, the body of it that makes up this file. And again, these fields can either be submitted through a batch file from your student information system or where you extract it from, or you can submit it and update or view it in online maintenance in a window similar to what you see on the right side